Broadcast News Organization. This is Action News. And now for TV12's Action News, here's Matt Mulcahy.
Good afternoon. Just 12 hours to get your tax return postmarked. A resolution to those nagging problems at the Bluestone Trailer Park. And it's official. Timothy Grippen runs for county executive. We talked to him live in a minute. But the big story on Action News, the political eye of the nation turns to Binghamton. Democratic presidential candidates Albert Gore and Michael Dukakis raced through the southern tier. This morning, candidates campaign in New York City, fighting for that big chunk of the vote. This afternoon, campaign whistled through Binghamton. Albert Gore comes to town earlier this afternoon. He's scheduled to speak at the VFW on Carroll Street at 2:30. Late in the afternoon, Michael Dukakis comes to the Polish Club on Prospect Street in the town of
Thank you very much.
Action News will be with the candidates and bring you the complete coverage tonight on Action News at 6. The governor of Massachusetts meets with the governor of New York. Mario Cuomo meets with Michael Dukakis late this morning. The governor has already praised the frontrunner's resume. Cuomo says Dukakis has valuable experience from operating a huge state government. He says that experience makes him a better candidate than Jesse Jackson. Cuomo has also praised the other two Democratic candidates. He has not endorsed anyone, and he says he won't till after the Democratic convention. One politician who has made an endorsement, the mayor of New York City. As Pat Dawson reports, Ed Koch has gone for the man who supports the cause of Israel.
Just a few days before the voting and trailing badly in the polls, Al Gore was suddenly at center stage in the New York primary race. At least as much as anyone can share center stage with the mayor of New York.
I hope that Al Gore does well in New York and goes on to become the 41st president of the United States. Al Gore.
Mayor Koch offered the Tennessee senator his endorsement after several days of well-publicized deliberations. But the Koch endorsement may be too little, too late. The latest Marist Institute poll shows Michael Dukakis with 48%, Jesse Jackson with 33%, and Gore trailing badly with the support of only 6% of those surveyed. The poll has a margin of error of plus or minus 5 points. And far from gaining some momentum, Gore's support level is virtually unchanged from the last survey. Earlier in the day, Gore was in Washington, where he continued to hammer at Dukakis for what he called irresponsible statements on U.S. nuclear policy in Europe.
Governor Dukakis responded to a question about strategic nuclear first strikes in a way that contained a serious mistake and reflected a serious misunderstanding of what our nation's policy is and should be.
A local congressman throws his support behind Michael Dukakis. Congressman Matthew McHugh now endorses the governor. McHugh was the New York State campaign leader for the Paul Simon campaign. When Simon dropped from the race, the Democrat from Ithaca shifted his support to the frontrunner in New York. The local political scene heats up. Binghamton Public Works Commissioner Timothy Grippen tosses his hat into the ring for Broome County executive. Grippen spoke to a crowd of hundreds of supporters about the problems he sees now in the administration of Carl Young. Grippen faces a runoff in September with fellow Democrat Edward Bontek, the mayor of Johnson City. Timothy Grippen now joins us live here on Action News. Welcome to our show today. Why are you in the race?
I'm in the race because I believe the county needs new leadership, needs progressive management. I think we need someone who can set realistic goals for Broome County, and I think I can do that.
That's something that's not being done now, in your opinion?
I think it's being done, but I think it's being done very poorly.
Name some specifics.
Well, the garbage burning plan is probably one of the things that's on most people's minds. You wonder why we want to build a $92 million garbage burning plant. We haven't tried recycling. They have a small recycling program going. Nothing like a countywide effort. If you do recycling, if you do it right, you make it mandatory, you can reduce the amount of garbage going through either the landfill or an incinerator. In either case, you could downsize the incinerator, make it smaller and less costly. That's what people want. They don't want to pay $92 million for a huge garbage incinerator. They want to deal with the garbage problem. Politicians don't want to.
If you're a county executive, do you think you'll be able to keep the tax rate from rising at the rate it has been?
Well, the tax rate, again, I think that's related especially to the style of management that county executives currently have. They've set up, everybody has 2 or 3 deputies. No one seems to know who's doing what. Management requires that you be hands-on, that you get in there, you roll your sleeves up, talk to your managers, and you do the job. That's not happening.
One other point, there's been some criticism criticism from your primary opponent, the mayor of Johnson City, that what took you so long to get into the campaign? What's your response to that?
Well, I think it always surprises politicians when someone who's basically non-political gets into the race, because politicians don't want people who are outside of their system to get involved. What we did is I started talking to people, and that's what they find surprising. Why would you talk to people? Most politicians take polls, and then they try to figure out how to win elections. I went out and I talked to a lot of people. We brought 45 to 50 people together. I asked them what they thought the issues were. I asked them what they thought I could do to make it better.
And that made your decision?
Sure. And that's an unnatural process for political people, but that is the kind of campaign I want to run. I want to run one that's based on what people think is important.
Okay. Timothy Grippen, thank you for joining us. Good luck in your campaign.
Still ahead, a car bomb in Italy kills one
Acclaimed
American.
Broadcast News Organization. This is Action News. And now, for TV12's Action News, here's Greg Kaplan and Phil Pito.
Good evening. They are making changes at that trailer park we keep telling you about. Pennsylvanians organized to fight for Route 15. And cold weather and the chance of snow arrive along with the arrival of a cold weather creature at the zoo. But the big story on Action News, the race for the White House. Democrats Michael Dukakis and Albert Gore campaign in Broome County right behind Jesse Jackson. New York Democrats go to the polls Tuesday to select over 200 delegates to the Atlanta Convention. The frontrunner in New York is Governor Dukakis. And Pat Zyga is on the scene at a campaign rally on Prospect Street. Pat?
Greg, thank you. The room is packed here at the Polish Community Center. The governor arrived just about 5 minutes ago. We've got a rousing reception. People chanting Duke, Duke, and we want Mike. Everyone very glad to see the president as a candidate. He's talking to the group right now. Let's see if we can pick up a little bit of what he's saying.
And I, first cousins, children of immigrants who came to this country 75 years ago. And this week and this month, and I hope this year, she will have achieved the highest honor you can achieve as an actor or an actress in this country of ours. And with your help, I hope her cousin is going to rise to the top of his profession as well.
Governor Dukakis obviously referring to his cousin winning an Oscar the other day. He's very proud of his family, very proud of his ethnic background, and obviously playing upon that to this very ethnic crowd at the Polish Community Center. Of course, other issues have been brought up quite often during this campaign, one of them being his stand on foreign policy issues. That's something he's been criticized for, especially by his opponent, Senator Gore. I talked to him about that a little bit earlier upon his arrival at Link Field. We have videotape of that, and we'll roll that right now.
Counter-criticism that you might not have the required foreign policy experience to be president.
The candidate in this race with the longest foreign policy resume is George Bush. He's the same person who sat next to the president and did nothing while we traded arms to the Ayatollah for hostages. He's the fellow that went to the Philippines in the early 80s and commended Marcos and his commitment to democracy. He still supports a failed and illegal policy in Central America. It's not how many years you spent in Washington that makes a difference in foreign policy. Otherwise, Franklin Roosevelt, who was the governor of New York before he became president, would have never been the great president and international leader he was. It's your values, the people you pick. It's the ability to work with Congress and the American people to shape a foreign policy that's strong, that's true to our values, and that can provide the kind of international leadership we want. Senator Gore himself has made some very bad mistakes recently on the subject of foreign policy. But I bring strength, values, a commitment to arms control and arms reduction, to an end to this fiasco in Central America, to real peace in the Middle East, to this campaign. And in fact, one of the reasons I'm running is because I think the next president will have an extraordinary opportunity to help shape a more stable and a more peaceful world.
In those comments and in others that the governor made to me earlier, he's actually stressing his experience, something he's been stressing throughout the campaign, the fact that he's a doer, he says, not a talker. He may not be as flashy, but he can get the job done. He'll be staying here for just a little bit longer. A very enthusiastic greeting from the Binghamton crowd, and we'll send it back to you, Greg. This is Pat Zyga, 12 Live at the Polish Community Center in Binghamton.
Okay, Pat, I hear the crowd there chanting Duke, Duke, obviously in reference to his last name, Dukakis.
That's a very enthusiastic crowd. You can't see all of it from where we're shooting, but there's got to be at least several hundred people here. They were excited before he came, and obviously much more excited after he arrived. and very glad to be seeing him. He was introduced by Wisconsin City Mayor Edward Bosick, who said, you know, this is a great way to start the weekend, meeting a future presidential candidate.
And his talk there at the Polish Community Center will be continuing for probably at least another half an hour. And, of course, Matt Zyga will remain there, and we'll have the latest tonight at 11. And, well, the hustle-bustle campaign scene is not limited to the Polish Community Center in Dickinson. Just a few hours before Governor Dukakis arrived, candidate Albert Gore campaigned on Binghamton's east side. Despite a distant third in the polls, the Tennessee senator was all smiles as he walked into a campaign rally at the VFW on Carroll Street. A crowd of some 200 people on hand for a standing ovation as he brought his message, as he says, to the working men and women.
We've got an excellent chance to win this race, ladies and gentlemen. But as Jim Talon says, we have got to reach out for a nominee who can appeal to the independently thinking voters who have the balance of power in the Electoral College.
Gore has been critical this week of the Democratic frontrunner, Michael Dukakis, for saying that he would consider a first-strike nuclear attack against the Soviets if the Soviets attacked Western Europe. During a news conference, Gore says the Dukakis statement is a mistake and needs to be corrected.
No president of the United States and no candidate for the nomination of either major political party has ever said that he would launch a strategic first strike against the Soviet Union under a specified set of circumstances. It's an irresponsible way to discuss policy.
Gore himself has been criticized by Governor Cuomo because Gore has been so critical of his Democratic rivals. But as he prepared to leave, he told me he will continue to speak out.
Spelling out differences on the issues is not personal criticism. It's what primaries are all about.
Gore is hoping the differences between the candidates will help boost his support in New York between now and next Tuesday. All three Democratic candidates know the New York primary is a big one. They continue to crisscross the Empire State getting their message out. So far, the polls say Michael Dukakis is the front-runner, with Jackson trailing and Gore nearly tied with undecided. On Sunday at 11, we'll bring you the latest Action News Gallup poll on the New York vote. And Monday, election eve, we will update the numbers for you. Well, they polled the members of the local health planning agency's board this afternoon, and when the votes were tallied, the operator of two Broome County hospitals came up a winner. 9-10 board members voted 4-2 to approve a multi-million-dollar renovation plan for United Health Services. UHS wants to consolidate most of its medical surgical services at Wilson Hospital, while alcohol and emergency services go to Binghamton General. But not everyone thinks it's a good idea.
I have a great deal of difficulty with this application in terms of feasibility, in terms of costs, and for that reason, I'm going to vote no.
In the end, though, that was a minority view. UHF Board Chairman William Rinker tells Veronica McQuillan he was pleased with the board approval of the plan. Rinker says UHF has a commitment to the community, and the consolidation plan will mean better service. The service provided by the IRS doesn't sit well with as many, and a man in Portland is doing something about it. Arthur Harvey stood outside the IRS office and burned $20 bills. His protest against military spending. The up-in-smoke total some $200. And we've got a lot more coming up, including snow in the forecast. A man who collected over 1 million